Chapter 1. Stop waiting for motivation. The myth of the spark. We have been lied to. From the time we were children watching movies where the hero finds a sudden burst of inspiration to win the race, to the social media influencers who tell you to find your passion to get started, we have been fed a lie. That lie is that you need to feel like doing something before you do it. We wait. We wait for the Monday morning when the sun is shining. We wait for the new year, new me energy. We wait for the moment when our anxiety is low and our caffeine levels are high. But here is the cold, hard truth. Motivation is a fair weather friend. It is a chemical spike in your brain that is emotional, unreliable, and temporary. If your consistency is tethered to your motivation, your progress will be as unstable as your moods. Discipline, however, is mechanical. It is a gear that turns regardless of the weather. Discipline doesn't care if you are tired. It doesn't care if you had a bad day at the office. It doesn't care if you don't feel the spark. Discipline is the ability to carry out a resolution long after the excitement of the moment has passed. Successful people have a secret they don't often share. They act before they are ready. They move before they feel inspired. They understand that the feeling follows the doing. Repeat this to yourself right now and let it sink into your marrow. I don't wait. I execute. The biology of hesitation. Why is it so hard to move without motivation? It's because your brain is wired for survival, not for greatness. Your brain views effort as a waste of calories and discomfort as a threat to your safety. When you think about going for a run in the cold or sitting down to do 3 hours of deep work, your brain sends a signal. Wait. We don't feel like it. Let's stay here where it's warm. Let's wait until we feel more energetic. If you listen to that voice, you are letting your biological autopilot run your life. The amateur listens to that voice and says, "You're right, I'll do it tomorrow." The professional hears that voice and recognizes it as a signal to begin. The gap between the person you are and the person you want to be is found in the 5 seconds between the thought and the action. If you hesitate in those 5 seconds, your brain will kill the idea. You must learn to bypass the feeling center of your brain and move directly to the execution center. You aren't a victim of your feelings. You are the architect of your actions. Real-world example, the gym and the rain. Think of 2 individuals, Alex and Sam. Alex is a motivation seeker. Alex joined the gym because he saw a fitness transformation video that fired him up. For the first week, he was there every day. He felt the pump, he loved the music, and he was excited. But in the second week, it rained. He had a stressful day at work. He felt sluggish. He told himself, "I'll go tomorrow when I have more energy. I don't want to have a bad workout." Alex waited for the feeling. The feeling never came. 3 months later, Alex's gym membership is a wasted monthly expense. Then there is Sam. Sam is a discipline builder. Sam doesn't particularly like the gym. On that same rainy Tuesday, Sam felt just as tired as Alex. In fact, Sam felt worse. But Sam doesn't use a feeling-based operating system. Sam has a schedule-based operating system. At 5:30 p.m., Sam's shoes go on. There is no internal debate. There is no checking the emotional weather. Sam goes to the gym, has a mediocre workout, and leaves. 1 year later, Sam is unrecognizable. It wasn't because Sam had more passion than Alex. It was because Sam realized that a mediocre workout performed with discipline beats a perfect workout that never happened because someone was waiting for motivation. One progresses. One stays stuck. One is a slave to their emotions. One is a master of their actions. Repeat it again. I don't wait. I execute. The action motivation loop. We usually think the process looks like this. Inspiration, motivation, action. This is wrong. This is the path of the amateur. The professional knows that the loop actually works in reverse. It is action, success, motivation, more action. When you take action, even a small, messy, I don't want to be here action, you create a tiny bit of momentum. That momentum creates a sense of accomplishment. That accomplishment releases dopamine. That dopamine creates the motivation to do it again. You cannot think your way into a new way of acting. You must act your way into a new way of thinking. You have to prime the pump. If you've ever used an old-fashioned water pump, you know you have to handle that lever for a while without a single drop of water coming out. It's exhausting. It's dry. It feels pointless. But if you keep pumping, eventually the vacuum is created, and the water begins to flow. Consistency is the act of pumping the lever when the water hasn't arrived yet. If you stop because you don't feel the water, you will never see the flow. From this moment on, your new mantra for every task, whether it's making your bed, making a cold call, or hitting the pavement, is this: action first, feelings later. Rewiring your internal dialogue. How do you talk to yourself when the resistance hits? Most people negotiate with themselves. Maybe I'll just do half. I'll start at 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. I deserve a break today. The moment you negotiate with your feelings, you have already lost. You have given your emotions a seat at the table. In the house of discipline, emotions don't get a vote. When the alarm goes off and your brain starts its list of excuses, you must interrupt it. Don't argue with the excuses. Don't try to reason yourself into being motivated. Simply say, I hear you, but we are executing anyway. Discipline is a form of self-respect. When you wait for motivation, you are telling yourself that your goals are only worth pursuing when they are easy. When you execute without motivation, you are telling yourself that your goals are non-negotiable. The before you feel ready principle. Waiting until you feel ready is a form of procrastination. You will never feel 100% ready to do something difficult. There will always be a lingering doubt, a slight fatigue, or a better thing to watch on TV. If you wait for the perfect state of mind, you are essentially saying that your environment and your biology are in control of your destiny. To be relentless is to seize control. Think about a soldier. Does a soldier wait to feel motivated to stand guard? Does a surgeon wait to feel inspired to perform a life-saving operation? No. They rely on their training. They rely on the machine-like nature of their discipline. You must treat your own goals with the same level of professional necessity. Your dream isn't a hobby, it's a mission. And on a mission, you don't wait for feelings. You move. Summary of execution. As we close this first chapter, understand that the spark is a bonus, not a requirement. If motivation shows up, use it. But never, ever depend on it. The most successful people in human history were not people who had an endless supply of energy. They were people who mastered the art of working while they were bored, tired, and uninspired. They built the habit of the immediate start. When the task is in front of you, don't analyze it. Don't check your emotional temperature. Don't wait for the stars to align. I don't wait. I execute. Action first. Feelings later. Go into the next hour of your life with this mindset. If there is something you have been putting off because you just aren't feeling it, do it now. Not because you want to, but because you said you would. That is the birth of discipline. That is the end of the waiting game. Chapter 2. Make consistency your identity. The invisible ceiling. Why is it that you can start a new habit with such fire, only to find yourself back on the couch 2 weeks later, feeling like a failure? You had the plan. You had the gym shoes. You had the books. But something pulled you back. Most people call this a lack of willpower. They think they just aren't strong enough to stay consistent. They are wrong. The problem isn't your willpower. The problem is your identity. There is an invisible ceiling over your life, and that ceiling is the image you have of yourself. You can work as hard as you want, but you will never consistently outperform your own self-image. If you see yourself as a procrastinator who is trying to get better, your brain will eventually find a way to make you procrastinate again. Why? Because your brain craves internal alignment. It wants your outside actions to match your inside identity. If you don't change who you are at the core, any change in your behavior will be temporary. Consistency isn't just about what you do. It's about who you believe you are. To become relentless, you must stop trying to be consistent and start being a consistent person. Repeat this to yourself. I am the type of person who shows up. You fall to the level of your identity. There is a famous saying in high-performance circles, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. But we can take that a step further. You fall to the level of your identity. Goals are about the future. They are about a result you don't have yet. Identity is about the present. It is about the person you are right now. When you focus only on a goal, like I want to lose 30 pounds, your brain views the work as a temporary chore. It's something you have to endure until you reach the finish line. And what happens when you reach it? You stop. You go back to your old self. This is why lottery winners go broke and why yo-yo dieters always gain the weight back. They changed their circumstances, but they never changed their identity. They were poor people with money or unhealthy people who weren't eating. Consistency becomes automatic when the behavior is no longer a choice, but a reflection of who you are. An athlete doesn't wake up and debate whether or not to train. They train because they are an athlete. A vegetarian doesn't look at a steak and use willpower to avoid it. They don't eat it because they are a vegetarian. The choice has been removed by the identity. If you want to stay consistent, you must shift your language and your mindset. You are no longer trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. Your new mantra: I am the type of person who shows up. The psychology of self-sabotage. We often sabotage ourselves because of a glitch in our self-image. Let's say you've spent 10 years telling yourself, I'm just not a morning person. Then, you decide to start waking up at 5 a.m. to work on your business. For 3 days, you do it. But on the 4th day, you feel a little tired. At that moment, your old identity starts talking. See, this isn't you. You're not a morning person. You're a night owl. You're pushing too hard. Go back to sleep and be yourself. And because you still believe that old identity, you listen. You hit snooze. You feel a sense of relief because you have returned to who you really are. To break this cycle, you must realize that your identity is not a fixed, genetic trait. It is a collection of stories you have told yourself and habits you have repeated. You were not born a procrastinator. You were not born lazy. You simply built a set of evidence for those labels over time. Consistency is the process of building new evidence. Every time you show up when you don't want to, you are casting a vote for a new identity. You are telling your brain, actually, I am this kind of person now. Trying versus being. Listen closely to the words you use. Language is the architect of your reality. When you say, I am trying to be more consistent, you are giving yourself an out. Trying implies the possibility of failure. It suggests that there is a struggle between the real you, the lazy one, and the new you, the one trying. Compare that to the person who says, I am a consistent person. Think of 2 people who are offered a cigarette while trying to quit smoking. The first person says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. The second person says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Which one is more likely to stay smoke-free? The second person. They have shifted their identity. Smoking is no longer an option for them because it doesn't fit who they are. If you want to wake up early, stop saying you're trying to wake up early. Say, I am an early riser. If you want to be a writer, stop saying you're trying to write. Say, I am a writer. When you claim the identity, the behavior follows. You start to think, what would a writer do today? What would a disciplined person do in this situation? A disciplined person wouldn't sit here scrolling for 3 hours. A disciplined person shows up. Reinforce the identity. I am the type of person who shows up. The power of small wins, building evidence. You cannot just lie to yourself and expect it to work. If you tell yourself I am a billionaire while you have $0 in the bank, your brain will reject the thought. You need evidence. Identity change is not a fake it till you make it strategy. It is a believe it because you proved it strategy. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. If you want to become a consistent person, you don't need to do something heroic today. You just need to cast one small vote. If you show up to the gym for only 10 minutes, you might not have burned many calories, but you have cast a vote for being an athlete. If you write one paragraph, you have cast a vote for being a writer. If you wash one dish immediately after eating, you have cast a vote for being a disciplined person. The goal isn't the workout. The goal is to become the type of person who never misses a workout. The goal isn't to write a book. The goal is to become the type of person who writes every day. Over time, these votes accumulate. The evidence becomes overwhelming. Eventually, your brain stops fighting you. It says, okay, I guess this is who we are now. This is when consistency becomes automatic. This is when the struggle ends. The type of person rule. When you are faced with a moment of weakness, and you will be, apply the type of person rule. You're tired. The couch is comfortable. The work is hard. Ask yourself, what would the type of person I want to become do right now? The old you would make an excuse. But you aren't that person anymore. You are the type of person who shows up. And because that is who you are, you get off the couch. Not because you are motivated, but because you refuse to betray your own identity. This is how you eliminate decision fatigue. You don't have to decide to work hard today. You already decided who you were. The who dictates the what. I am the type of person who shows up. I am the type of person who shows up. I am the type of person who shows up. No breaks in identity. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they can take vacations from their identity. They think, I'll be disciplined on weekdays, but on weekends, I'll go back to being my old self. This creates an identity crisis. You are constantly pulling yourself in two different directions. It makes consistency 10 times harder because you are always having to restart the engine. A relentless person understands that there are no breaks in identity. You are who you are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This doesn't mean you never rest. It means that even when you rest, you do it as a disciplined person. You rest with intention, so you can return to the work with focus. You don't turn off your consistency. It is woven into your DNA. Whether you are at home, at work, on vacation, or in a hospital bed, you remain the person who keeps their word. You remain the person who shows up. The thermostat of the soul. Think of your identity like a thermostat in a room. If the thermostat is set to 70 degrees, and the weather outside gets very hot, the room might temporarily heat up to 75. But what happens? The air conditioner kicks in and pulls the temperature back down to 70. If the weather gets very cold, the room might drop to 65. But the heater kicks in and pulls it back up to 70. Your life works exactly the same way. Your set point is your identity. If you temporarily do too much work, more than your identity thinks you deserve, you will subconsciously find a way to slack off or get sick to bring your results back down to your set point. If you fall behind, you'll have a burst of panic-driven energy to bring you back up to where you think you belong. If you want to stay consistent at a higher level, you can't just try harder. You have to turn the dial on the thermostat. You have to change the set point. You have to decide that average is no longer who you are. You have to decide that exceptional is your new 70 degrees. Once you change the setting, your brain will work for you instead of against you. It will view inconsistency as a threat to your identity and will trigger the heater of discipline to get you back on track. Summary: the new you. In Chapter 1, we learned to stop waiting for motivation and to execute. But to keep that execution going for years, not days, you must anchor it in who you are. Stop focusing on the 100-page book. Focus on being a writer. Stop focusing on the marathon. Focus on being a runner. Stop focusing on the millions of dollars. Focus on being an entrepreneur. Every single morning, when you open your eyes, before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, look in the mirror and remind yourself of the truth. You are not someone who tries. You are not someone who wishes. You are not someone who waits. You are the type of person who shows up. When the world asks you to compromise, when your body asks you to quit, and when your mind asks for a day off, you give them the only answer an identity-driven person can give. This is who I am. This is what I do. Chapter 3. Eliminate the need for perfection. The golden cage of good enough. We have been conditioned to believe that perfectionism is a badge of honor. In job interviews, when asked for a weakness, people often smirk and say, "I'm just too much of a perfectionist." They say it because they want you to think they have incredibly high standards. They want you to think they are meticulous, careful, and committed to excellence. But in the world of discipline and consistency, perfectionism is not a virtue. It is a parasite. It is a sophisticated defense mechanism designed to keep you safe from the sting of criticism and the reality of failure. Perfectionism is not the quest for the best. It is the fear of the worst. It is a golden cage that keeps you trapped in a state of perpetual planning, endless tweaking, and zero execution. If you wait for the perfect plan, the perfect weather, or the perfect level of skill, you will never actually start. And if you don't start, you cannot be consistent. Discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being present. It is about the willingness to be seen in your messy stage. If you want to break the cycle of starting and stopping, you must kill the idea that things need to be just right before they count. Repeat this until it becomes your new law of operation. Done is discipline. Perfect is delay. Perfection is procrastination in disguise. Let's call perfectionism what it really is: high-end procrastination. Procrastination usually looks like laziness, lying on the couch, watching TV, avoiding work. That's easy to spot. But perfectionism is more dangerous because it looks like work. It looks like research. It looks like refining the strategy. It looks like organizing your desk before you begin the big project. You tell yourself, I'm not procrastinating, I'm just making sure I do it right. But the result is the same. Nothing gets shipped. Nothing gets published. No weight gets lost. No business gets launched. The disciplined person understands that a good plan executed today is infinitely better than a perfect plan executed next month. Why? Because the person who executes today is already gathering data. They are learning what works and what doesn't. They are building the muscle of showing up. Meanwhile, the perfectionist is still staring at a blank screen, paralyzed by the possibility of making a mistake. Waiting for perfection kills execution. It robs you of the most important element of success: momentum. Momentum only comes from movement, and movement is rarely graceful at the start. Repeat it. Done is discipline. Perfect is delay. The parable of the pottery class. There is a famous story about a ceramics teacher who divided his class into two groups. The first group was the quality group. Their grade for the semester would be based on just one piece of pottery, a single, perfect pot. They spent the entire semester researching clay, studying kiln temperatures, and sketching designs. They spent months trying to ensure their one pot would be a masterpiece. The second group was the quantity group. Their grade was based purely on weight. If they produced 50 pounds of pots, they got an A. If they produced 40 pounds, they got a B. They didn't have to worry about beauty or perfection. They just had to keep the wheel spinning. At the end of the semester, an interesting thing happened. The finest, most beautiful, and most perfect pots didn't come from the quality group. They came from the quantity group. While the quality group was sitting around theorizing about perfection, the quantity group was actually working. They were making mistakes. They were dropping clay. They were learning how to feel the texture of the mud. With every messy pot they made, they got slightly better. By the time the semester ended, they had developed the actual skill required to make something beautiful. This is the secret of consistency. Messy work beats no work every single time. The mess is where the skill is hidden. If you aren't willing to be a mediocre beginner, you will never become a master. Real-world example: the two creators. Look at the world of digital content. Consider two aspiring creators, Sarah and James. Sarah is a perfectionist. She wants her first YouTube video to look like a Hollywood movie. She spends 6 months researching cameras. She spends 3 months writing a script. She spends another 2 months filming and refilming because she doesn't like the way her hair looks in frame. A year passes, and Sarah has uploaded 0 videos. She has 0 subscribers. She has 0 experience. James, on the other hand, embraces imperfect action. He decides to post 1 video every week, no matter what. His first video is shot on an old phone with bad lighting. He stumbles over his words. The editing is basic. It's messy. But he hits publish. The next week, he does it again. He learns how to fix the lighting. The week after, he learns how to speak more clearly. By the end of the year, James has 52 videos. He has thousands of subscribers. He has a community. Most importantly, his 50-second video is actually perfect, not because he waited, but because he practiced. James stayed consistent because he gave himself permission to be bad. Sarah stayed stagnant because she demanded she be great. The rule: done is discipline. Perfect is delay. The 70% rule. How do you know when to move? High performers often use the 70% rule. If you have 70% of the information you need, or if you feel 70% ready, you go. If you wait until you are 100% sure, you have waited too long. The world is moving too fast for 100% certainty. In your fitness journey, don't wait for the perfect workout program. If you know that you need to move your body and eat more protein, that's 70%. Go to the gym today. In your business, don't wait for the perfect logo or the perfect website. If you have a product that solves a problem, that's 70%. Start selling. Discipline is the act of closing the gap between thinking and doing. Perfectionism widens that gap. Execution closes it. When you feel that urge to wait and refine, recognize it as a red flag. It's your ego trying to protect itself from judgment. Push through it. Lower the bar for entry. Keep the bar high for showing up. Consistency often fails because we set the perfection bar too high for our daily actions. We think that if we can't do a 90-minute perfect workout, it doesn't count. We think that if we can't write 2,000 words of perfect prose, we shouldn't write at all. This is all or nothing thinking, and it is the enemy of discipline. The disciplined person knows how to lower the bar on bad days to ensure they don't break the chain. On a day when you are exhausted, sick, or overwhelmed, a perfect 90-minute workout is impossible. If perfection is your goal, you will skip the gym entirely. But if done is your goal, you will go to the gym and do 15 minutes of light stretching. You showed up. You kept the promise. You maintained the identity. An imperfect action keeps the momentum alive. A perfect delay kills it. You must become a master of the minimum viable day. What is the smallest, messiest version of your habit that you can perform even when life is falling apart? Do that. Just don't do nothing. The myth of the right time. Perfectionism often manifests as waiting for the right time. I'll start the diet after the holidays. I'll start the business when the kids are older. I'll start writing when I have a dedicated office space. Listen carefully, there is no right time. There is only now and too late. The right time is a fantasy constructed by your brain to help you feel better about your current inaction. The most disciplined people you know started in the middle of chaos. They started while they were broke. They started while they were tired. They started before they knew what they were doing. Consistency is built in the cracks of a busy life. It is not something that happens once your life is perfectly organized. If you can only be disciplined when your life is perfect, you aren't disciplined, you're just lucky. Real discipline is the ability to maintain your non-negotiables when everything is going wrong. Repeat it. Done is discipline. Perfect is delay. Embracing the messy middle. Every great project, every fitness transformation, and every career shift has a messy middle. The beginning is exciting, motivation. The end is rewarding, results. But the middle is long, confusing, and often ugly. This is where perfectionists quit. When the initial excitement wears off and they realize their work isn't perfect yet, they get discouraged and move on to the next new thing. The disciplined person expects the mess. They embrace the fact that their first drafts will be terrible. They embrace the fact that they will look clumsy learning a new skill. They detach their ego from the quality of the immediate output and attach their pride to the consistency of the input. You must fall in love with the process of iterative improvement. You do it poorly, then you do it slightly better, then you do it good, and eventually you do it great. You cannot skip the poorly stage. It is a mandatory requirement for greatness. Reframe your errors as data. If you stop trying to be perfect, you stop seeing mistakes as failures. Instead, you see them as data points. When a scientist runs an experiment and it doesn't work, they don't cry and say they are a failure. They write down the result, adjust the variables, and try again. They are consistent because they aren't emotionally attached to the perfection of every single experiment. Apply this to your life. If you tried a new diet and cheated on Wednesday, don't throw away the whole week. That's perfectionist logic. Instead, look at the data. Why did you cheat? Were you too hungry? Did you not prep your lunch? Adjust the variables and get back on track for dinner. Consistency is a game of adjustments, not a game of flawless execution. The person who can fail, learn, and return to the work in 5 minutes will always beat the person who fails and sulks for 5 days. Summary: the power of done. As we end this chapter, I want you to look at your to-do list or that one big goal you've been sitting on. Why haven't you started? Are you really waiting for more information? Or are you just afraid of making a mistake? The world does not reward the people who had the most perfect ideas in their heads. The world rewards the people who were brave enough to put imperfect ideas into action. Stop tweaking the font. Stop rewriting the first chapter. Stop waiting for the perfect gym partner. Open your laptop. Put on your shoes. Make the call. Do it badly if you have to, but get it done. The discipline is found in the completion, not the quality. Quality is a byproduct of quantity. Excellence is a byproduct of repetition. You are no longer a perfectionist. You are an executor. You are a finisher. You are the type of person who gets things across the finish line, even if they are covered in dust and dents. Done is discipline. Perfect is delay. Go do the work. Messy action beats no action. Every single time. Chapter 4. Build non-negotiable systems. The willpower fallacy. We have been taught that discipline is a battle of the will. We picture a stoic warrior gritting their teeth, fighting off temptation through sheer mental strength. We think that the most consistent people among us simply have a stronger mind than we do. We tell ourselves, if only I had more willpower, I could stay on track. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the human brain works. Willpower is not a character trait. It is a finite biological resource. It is like a battery in your phone. In the morning, when you are fresh, your willpower battery is at 100%. But every time you have to make a choice, what to wear, what to eat, how to respond to an annoying email, whether or not to go to the gym, you drain that battery. By 5 p.m., your battery is at 5%. This is why most people ruin their diets at dinner, skip their evening workouts, and spend 3 hours scrolling on their phones at night. They didn't lose their discipline. They simply ran out of fuel. The most consistent people in the world do not have more willpower than you. They have better systems. They have designed their lives so that they don't have to use willpower at all. They have created rules that they do not allow themselves to debate. Discipline is not about winning a fight with yourself. It is about building a system so effective that the fight never happens in the first place. Repeat this. No debate. Just execute. Goals versus systems. A goal is a destination. A system is a vehicle. A goal is I want to write a book. A system is I write 500 words every morning at 7 a.m. A goal is I want to be fit. A system is I attend the 6 p.m. GT class every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you focus only on the goal, you are constantly checking the horizon, wondering why you aren't there yet. This creates anxiety and leads to inconsistency. But if you focus on the system, the goal takes care of itself. If you follow a system of writing 500 words a day, the book is a mathematical certainty. Systems remove the if, when, and how from your day. When you don't have a system, you wake up and ask yourself, do I feel like working out today? What time should I do it? Which exercises should I perform? Every one of those questions drains your willpower. By the time you decide, you're already tired of the process. When you have a system, the decision is already made. You don't ask if. You don't ask when. You just look at the system and follow the instructions. Discipline is the automation of excellence, the birth of the non-negotiable. To build a system, you must introduce the concept of non-negotiables. A non-negotiable is a daily action that happens no matter what. It is a contract you have signed with yourself that has no exit clause. It doesn't matter if it's raining. It doesn't matter if you're traveling. It doesn't matter if you're in a bad mood. You do not negotiate with yourself on these points. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you wake up and have a 10-minute debate with yourself about whether you feel motivated to brush your teeth? Do you wait for a spark of inspiration to grab the toothbrush? No. It is a non-negotiable system. You do it automatically. You do it because it is who you are. Your most important work, your health, your business, your craft, must reach the same status as brushing your teeth. It must become a no-debate zone. When you allow yourself to negotiate, you are inviting your weakest self to the table. And your weakest self is a very good lawyer. It will find 1,000 reasons why just this once it's okay to skip. To be consistent, you must fire that lawyer. You must close the courtroom. The rule, no debate. Just execute. Decision fatigue, the silent progress killer. Every decision you make throughout the day carries a cognitive tax. This is known as decision fatigue. Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg famously wore the same style of clothes every day. Why? Because they didn't want to waste a single drop of mental energy on deciding what to wear. They saved that energy for the decisions that actually mattered. You are likely wasting 80% of your discipline on shallow decisions. What should I have for lunch? Should I work on Project A or Project B first? Should I go to the gym now or later? By the time you get to the deep work, the work that will actually change your life, your brain is already fried. A system eliminates decision fatigue by pre-deciding your life. You meal prep on Sunday so you don't decide what to eat on Tuesday. You lay out your workout clothes the night before. You schedule your most important task for the same time every single day. When you remove the need to make choices, you free up your mental energy to focus on the execution of the task itself. Consistency thrives in a world of limited options. The more choices you have, the less likely you are to be disciplined. The anatomy of a high-performance system. What does a successful system look like? It has 3 primary components: time, trigger, and task. The time, a fixed window in your day. Not whenever I have a gap, but from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The trigger, an event that signals the start of the system. This could be as soon as the coffee pot finishes brewing or the moment I close my laptop at work. The task, a clearly defined, specific action. Not work on the business, but send 10 outreach emails. Let's look at a fixed work-hour system. Imagine you are a freelancer. The amateur waits for a client to call or for a burst of creativity. The professional sets a system. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., I am at my desk. My phone is on Do Not Disturb. I'm doing deep work. On Monday, they are productive. On Tuesday, they are distracted. On Wednesday, they are tired. But because the system says they must be at the desk from 9 to 12, they stay there. Even if they produce nothing for the first hour, they are there. And because they are there, the work eventually happens. If they relied on feeling like it, they wouldn't have even sat down on Tuesday or Wednesday. The system kept them in the game long enough for the results to show up. Repeat. No debate. Just execute. The once and done decision. Discipline is making the right choice once, so you don't have to make it 1,000 times. When you decide, I don't eat sugar during the week, you only made one decision. Now, every time someone offers you a donut on a Tuesday, you don't have to decide whether or not to eat it. The decision was made last Sunday. The answer is automatically no. This is the power of a rule-based life. I do not check email before 10 a.m. I work out every morning before I eat breakfast. I read 20 pages before I turn on the TV. These rules are the guardrails of your consistency. Without them, you are a car driving on a cliffside with no steering wheel, hoping that motivation will keep you on the road. With them, you are a train on a track. A train doesn't need to decide which way to go. It just follows the rails. Your systems are your rails. They guide you through the days when you are foggy, emotional, or exhausted. Real-world example, the elite athlete's schedule. Consider an Olympic swimmer. Do you think they wake up at 4:30 a.m. and ask themselves, do I want to get into a cold pool today? Do you think they check their internal motivation levels to see if they feel like swimming 10,000 meters? Of course not. Their life is a rigid system of non-negotiables. 4:30 a.m. Wake up. 4:45 a.m. Pre-workout meal. 5:15 a.m. In the water. There is no debate. There is no negotiation. If they allowed themselves to negotiate, they would never get in the water. The cold is too biting, the bed is too warm, and the work is too hard. The only way they stay consistent enough to win a gold medal is by removing the choice entirely. You may not be an Olympic athlete, but you are an athlete in the game of your own life. Your goals deserve the same level of systematic respect. If it's important, it needs a slot on the calendar and a no-debate policy. Removing the middleman of emotion. Most people have a middleman between their intention and their action. That middleman is their mood. Intention, mood, action. If the mood is good, the action happens. If the mood is bad, the action stops. A system removes the middleman. Intention, system, action. The system doesn't care about your mood. The system is a cold, hard piece of machinery. It doesn't have feelings. By following a system, you depersonalize the work. You stop making it about you and start making it about the process. When people ask, how do you stay so consistent? The answer should be, I have a system that makes it harder to quit than to keep going. Dealing with system failure. What happens when the system breaks? Because eventually, life will happen. A flight will be delayed, a child will get sick, or an emergency will arise. The amateur sees a broken system as a reason to quit. Well, I missed my morning routine, so the whole day is a wash. I might as well eat junk food and try again next week. The disciplined person has a backup system. They use the never miss twice rule. If the system breaks today, the primary objective is to ensure it does not break tomorrow. You don't need a perfect system, as we learned in Chapter 3. You need a resilient system. If you can't do your 60-minute gym system, you execute your 10-minute emergency system. You keep the machinery of discipline moving. The speed doesn't matter as much as the fact that the gears are still turning. Building your consistency code. As we close this chapter, I want you to look at your life and identify 3 areas where you are inconsistent. Is it your fitness? Your finances? Your creative work? Now, stop asking for more willpower. Stop wishing for more motivation. Instead, write down a non-negotiable system for each of those areas. Define the time. Define the trigger. Define the task. And then, commit to the no-debate zone. From this moment forward, when the clock strikes that hour, you move. You don't think. You don't feel. You don't argue. You don't negotiate. You are no longer a person who is trying to get things done. You are an operator of a high-performance system. The system works because you work the system. No debate. Just execute. Repeat. Consistency is not a miracle. It is a design choice. Build your system, and the system will build you. Chapter 5. Master boring repetition. The dopamine trap. We live in an age of novelty. Every few seconds, we can swipe our thumbs and see something new, something exciting, something shocking. Our brains are marinated in dopamine, the chemical of more. We have become addicted to the new. New projects, new diets, new relationships, new business ideas. In the beginning, everything is easy. We call this the honeymoon phase. You have the new gym clothes, the new software, the new notebook. Your brain is firing off signals of excitement. But then, day 20 arrives. Or day 45. Or day 100. The novelty has evaporated. The new has become normal. The excitement has been replaced by a flat, grey sense of monotony. This is the moment most people quit. They mistake boredom for a lack of progress. They think, if I'm bored, it must not be working, or I must have lost my passion. But the relentless person knows the truth. Boredom is not a sign of failure. Boredom is a signal of mastery. Success is not built in the flashes of intensity or the moments of high-octane excitement. Success is built in the quiet, repetitive, boring moments that no one sees and no one applauds. If you want to reach the top 1% of your field, you must learn to fall in love with the mundane. You must master the art of doing the same thing, the right way, for the 10,000th time. Repeat this to yourself: boring is where winners are built. The myth of the big break. We love stories of overnight success. We like to think that one day, a scout will see us, a video will go viral, or a big break will suddenly catapult us to the finish line. We wait for the intensity, the one big push that changes everything. But intensity is overrated. Consistency is everything. You cannot get fit by going to the gym for 24 hours straight once a year. That is intensity, and it will only result in injury. You get fit by going for 30 minutes a day, every day, for 3 years. That is boring repetition. You cannot build a fortune by timing the market with one lucky trade. You build wealth by the boring repetition of saving and investing a portion of your income every single month, decade after decade, letting the boring math of compound interest do the heavy lifting. The big break is usually just the result of years of boring work finally reaching a tipping point. When you see a master at work, you are seeing the tip of an iceberg. Beneath the surface are thousands of hours of repetition that were so repetitive, so unglamorous, and so boring that most people would have quit in the first month. Real-world example: the fundamentals of greatness. Consider the greatest athletes in history. Take Kobe Bryant, for example. There are countless stories of other NBA players arriving at the gym at 7 a.m., thinking they were early, only to find Kobe already drenched in sweat. What was he doing? Was he practicing flashy 360-degree dunks? Was he doing exciting new drills? No. He was practicing the most basic footwork. He was practicing the same mid-range jumper he had been shooting since he was 12 years old. He would do the same move, one dribble, pull up, follow through, hundreds of times until it was perfect. And then he would do it 1,000 times more. While other players got bored and wanted to play pick-up games or try new tricks, Kobe stayed focused on the boring fundamentals. He knew that in the final seconds of a championship game, you don't need novelty. You need a boring movement that has been repeated so many times it is impossible to miss. The elite are not elite because they have secret techniques. They are elite because they have a higher tolerance for boredom than everyone else. They are willing to drill the basics while everyone else is chasing hacks. Your mantra: boring is where winners are built. The plateau of latent potential. One reason we hate boring repetition is that it often feels like nothing is happening. This is what author James Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. Imagine an ice cube sitting on a table in a room that is 25 degrees. You want to melt the ice cube. You put in the work. You raise the temperature to 26 degrees. Nothing happens. You raise it to 27. Nothing. 28. 29, 30, 31. The ice cube is still sitting there. If you were looking for results, you would think you were failing. You've put in all this effort to heat the room, and the ice hasn't changed at all. This is the boring middle. Most people quit at 31 degrees. They say, "This isn't working. I'm doing the work, but I don't see any results." But then, you hit 32 degrees. Suddenly, the ice melts. The 32nd degree wasn't a magic degree. It was the result of all the boring degrees that came before it. All that work was being stored, not wasted. Consistency is the act of heating the room from 25 to 31 when there is no visible proof that it's working. If you are in the boring phase of your journey right now, if you are writing words no one is reading, or lifting weights that don't seem to be changing your body yet, remember the ice cube. You are not failing. You are storing potential. The breakthrough is a mathematical certainty if you do not stop. Reframing boredom as a signal. In Chapter 1, we talked about ignoring motivation. In Chapter 5, we talk about welcoming boredom. Most people view boredom as a negative signal. They think it means, I should stop. I should find something more fun. This isn't for me. I want you to reframe that. When you feel bored, I want you to think, this is the entrance to the winner's circle. Boredom is a filter. It is the wall that keeps the average people out. The world is designed to reward the people who can pass the boredom test. Every time you sit down to do that repetitive task, the one you've done 1,000 times, remind yourself that this is the exact moment you are pulling ahead of your competition. While they are out looking for the next big thing, you are drilling the fundamentals. While they are distracted by shiny object syndrome, you are getting 1% better at the basics. Boredom is the price of admission for greatness. If it wasn't boring, everyone would do it. And if everyone did it, it wouldn't be valuable. The value is found in the fact that most people cannot endure the repetition. Repeat it. Boring is where winners are built. The danger of the hack. In our desire to escape the boredom of repetition, we often go looking for hacks or shortcuts. The 5-minute abs workout. The secret AI tool to write your book in a weekend. The one weird trick to triple your income. These hacks are the enemies of discipline. They are based on the premise that you can skip the boring work and get the exciting result. But hacked results are fragile. They have no foundation. If you hack your way to a result, you haven't built the character, the skill, or the discipline required to keep that result. A person who wins the lottery hasn't gone through the boring repetition of learning how to manage, earn, and grow money. That's why they lose it. There is no substitute for the representatives. Every rep you do is not just about the output, it is about the internal transformation. The boring repetition is what hardens your mind. It is what builds your self-trust, as we will discuss in Chapter 7. You cannot hack self-trust. You can only earn it by showing up for the boring work day after day. How to stay consistent when it's boring. How do we actually survive the monotony of the grind? Here are 3 strategies. 1. Focus on form, not just the result. When a task becomes boring, it's usually because you're doing it on autopilot. To re-engage, shift your focus to the micro details. If you're running, don't focus on the miles. Focus on the exact strike of your foot on the pavement. If you're coding, focus on the elegance of the syntax. Turn the boring repetition into a quest for perfect form. There is always a deeper level of mastery to be found in the basics. 2. Gamify the process. If the work is boring, make the consistency the game. Use a habit tracker and treat the X on the calendar as your score. Your only job is to not break the chain. The satisfaction comes not from the task itself, but from the streak. You become more addicted to the win of staying consistent than the excitement of the work. 3. Remember the why but execute the how. Keep your vision in the back of your mind, the person you want to become, Chapter 2. But on a daily basis, ignore the big vision and focus only on the next rep. Don't think about the 500 pages of the book. Think about the next 50 words. Don't think about the 50 pounds of fat. Think about the next meal. The winner's wall. In every endeavor, there is a wall. It's the point where the initial energy is gone, the results aren't visible yet, and the work is at its most repetitive. This is where the separation happens. The amateur sees the wall and turns around. The professional sees the wall and says, "Finally, this is where I leave them behind." When you feel that deep, soul-crushing boredom, the feeling of "I can't believe I have to do this again," I want you to smile. That feeling is the sound of your competition quitting. That feeling is the sound of you becoming relentless. Consistency is not a high. It is a grind. But the grind is what polishes the diamond. Without the friction of boring repetition, you remain a rough stone. Mastery is the goal. Ultimately, the goal of discipline is mastery. And mastery is nothing more than the boring fundamentals performed at an extraordinary level. Think of a master pianist. They don't play new notes. They play the same 88 keys that every beginner has. The difference is that the master has repeated the scales, the chords, and the fingerings so many millions of times that they no longer have to think about them. They have reached a level of unconscious competence. You cannot reach that level through intensity. You can only reach it through the boring, repetitive, daily commitment to the craft. Summary: the beauty of the mundane. As we end this chapter, take a look at the work you have to do tomorrow. Don't look for a way to make it exciting. Don't look for a way to make it new. Instead, look at it for what it is, a necessary repetition on the path to greatness. Accept the boredom. Embrace the monotony. Trust the process. The excitement will come later, when you stand at the finish line and everyone asks you how you did it. They will look for a secret. They will look for a hack. They will look for a moment of genius. And you will look back at the thousands of boring mornings, the thousands of repetitive representatives, and the thousands of days when you didn't feel like it but did it anyway. And you will know the truth. Success isn't flashy. Success is the aggregate of every boring choice you made to stay the course. Boring is where winners are built. I don't need excitement. I need execution. Repetition is my superpower. Go do the boring work. It's the only way to the top. Chapter 6. Control your environment or fail. The invisible architect. We like to think of ourselves as the captains of our souls. We believe that our conscious mind, our logic, our goals, and our willpower is the primary driver of our behavior. We think that if we are disciplined enough, we can resist any temptation and overcome any obstacle. But there is a silent architect working behind the scenes of your life. This architect determines what you eat, how much you move, how focused you are at work, and how often you check your phone. This architect is your environment. You are not as in control as you think you are. You are a biological organism designed to follow the path of least resistance. If you put a bowl of cookies on your kitchen counter, you will eventually eat a cookie, not because you are weak, but because your environment suggested it. If you keep your phone next to your bed, you will eventually scroll at midnight, not because you lack vision, but because the friction to distraction is zero. Discipline is not just a mental state, it is a physical arrangement. If you rely on your mind to fight your surroundings, you will lose. Every single time. To stay consistent, you must stop trying to be stronger than your environment and start designing an environment that makes discipline inevitable. Repeat this. Make discipline easier than distraction. The myth of the Stoic monk. Imagine a monk who has meditated for 20 years. He is the pinnacle of self-control. Now, put that monk in the middle of a loud, neon-lit casino with a tray of free drinks and a smartphone buzzing in his pocket. How long do you think his inner peace will last? Even the most disciplined person in the world has a breaking point. Why? Because willpower is a muscle that gets tired, as we learned in Chapter 4, but your environment never sleeps. Your environment is exerting pressure on you 24 hours a day. If your environment is set up for distraction, you are forcing yourself to run a marathon with a backpack full of stones. You might be able to do it for a mile or two, but eventually you will collapse. The consistent person doesn't have more character than the inconsistent person. They simply have a better designed room. They have removed the stones from their backpack. They have realized that the easiest way to resist temptation is to avoid seeing it in the first place. The science of friction. In physics, friction is the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another. In psychology, friction is the distance between your intention and your action. If you want to stay consistent, you must master the law of friction. Decrease friction for good habits. Make the things you should do so easy that it's almost impossible not to do them. Increase friction for bad habits. Make the things you shouldn't do so difficult, annoying, and inconvenient that your lazy brain decides it isn't worth the effort. Most people do the exact opposite. They make it hard to be disciplined and easy to be distracted. They keep their gym bag in the back of a cluttered closet, high friction. They keep the TV remote on the coffee table right in front of the couch, low friction. They keep their work tabs open next to 20 entertainment tabs, zero friction. Consistency fails because the path of least resistance leads to the wrong destination. Your job is to pave a highway to your goals and build a brick wall in front of your distractions. Your mantra: make discipline easier than distraction. Real-world example: the phone in the other room. Let's look at the greatest thief of consistency in the modern age: the smartphone. The average person checks their phone over 100 times a day. Every time you check a notification while trying to work, you lose task momentum. Research shows it can take up to 23 minutes to return to deep focus after a single interruption. If you try to use willpower to ignore your phone while it sits on your desk, you are wasting precious mental energy. Even if you don't pick it up, your brain is actively working to not pick it up. You are draining your battery just by looking at the device. Now, Consider the disciplined person. When it is time for deep work, they take their phone and put it in a different room. They might even put it in a timed lockbox. By putting the phone in another room, they have increased friction. If they want to check Instagram, they have to stand up, walk across the house, and retrieve the device. Because humans are naturally lazy, their brain will often say, "Hey, it's too much work. I'll just keep writing." They didn't use willpower to stay focused. They used geography. They made the distraction harder than the work. Visual cues, out of sight, out of mind. Your brain is a pattern-matching machine that responds to visual cues. If you see the bag of chips, you want the chips. If you see the guitar in the corner of the room, you are more likely to practice. The most consistent people prime their environment with visual triggers for their non-negotiable systems. Chapter 4. For fitness, they don't just plan to work out. They lay their gym clothes, shoes, and water bottle out on the floor the night before. When they wake up, the first thing their feet hit is their workout gear. The cue is unavoidable. For diet, they hide the junk food in a high, opaque cabinet that requires a stool to reach. They put a bowl of fresh fruit in the center of the kitchen island. They make the healthy choice the obvious choice. For reading, they put a book on their pillow every morning when they make the bed. When they go to lie down at night, they literally have to touch the book to get into bed. You must curate what your eyes see. If your environment is a shrine to your goals, you will naturally move toward them. If your environment is a shrine to your comforts, you will naturally sink into them. The one room, one activity rule. Your brain associates specific spaces with specific behaviors. This is why it's hard to work in bed. Your brain thinks, this is where we sleep, and it begins to release melatonin. It's also why it's hard to sleep in your office. Your brain thinks, this is where we stress, and it keeps your cortisol levels high. To master consistency, you must specialize your environment. If possible, have a dedicated space for your work where you never do anything else. No eating, no scrolling, no YouTube. Over time, simply sitting in that chair becomes a trigger for deep focus. Your brain enters work mode automatically because the environment demands it. If you live in a small space, you can use environmental anchors. A specific lamp that you only turn on when you are writing. A specific pair of noise-cancelling headphones that you only wear for deep work. A specific playlist of lo-fi beats that signals the start of your discipline. By creating these micro-environments, you are training your brain to switch into the correct gear without needing a burst of motivation. The social environment. The people are the walls. Your environment isn't just made of wood, glass, and silicon. It is made of people. The people you surround yourself with are the human walls of your environment. If you are trying to be consistent with a new business, but your 3 best friends spend every evening complaining about their jobs and watching reality TV, you are fighting an uphill battle. Their gravity will eventually pull you back down. You don't have to fire your friends, but you must realize that their habits are contagious. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, not because of vibrations, but because of social friction. If your friends eat junk food, it is socially expensive for you to eat healthy. If your friends stay up late, it is socially expensive for you to go to bed at 9 p.m. The consistent person seeks out higher friction social circles. Circles where being disciplined is the minimum requirement for entry. Join a group of runners. Join a mastermind of entrepreneurs. Surround yourself with people who make your extraordinary goals feel normal. When consistency is the default of your social environment, you no longer have to explain yourself. You just show up. Repeat. Make discipline easier than distraction. Digital hygiene. Cleaning the invisible space. In the 21st century, half of your life is spent inside a screen. If your digital environment is cluttered, your consistency will be cluttered. Think about your computer desktop. Think about your email inbox. Think about the apps on your phone's home screen. Are these tools designed for your execution or for someone else's profit? The designers of social media apps spend billions of dollars to ensure that their environment is low friction. They want it to be as easy as possible for you to lose 3 hours of your life. You must fight back by cleaning your digital house. Delete the apps. If an app doesn't serve your identity, Chapter 2, remove it. If you need to check it, do it on a desktop browser where the friction is higher. Turn off notifications. Notifications are external triggers that hijack your brain. A disciplined person dictates when they check their phone. They don't let their phone dictate when it checks them. The blank home screen. Keep your home screen empty or filled only with utility apps, maps, notes, calendar. Move the time waster apps into folders 3 screens away. By cleaning your digital environment, you are protecting your attention. And attention is the fuel of consistency. Designing for your future self. Environment design is an act of kindness toward your future self. Your present self might feel strong right now. You're listening to this book, you're motivated, and you're ready to go. But your future self, the one who will wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow, will be tired. They will be grumpy. They will be looking for an excuse. You must trap your future self into being disciplined. If you want to go for a run, put your sneakers in front of the door now. If you want to eat a healthy breakfast, prep the ingredients now. If you want to avoid a late-night snack, throw away the cookies now. Don't leave the choices up to the version of you that is tired and weak. Make the choices now, while you are strong, and lock them in through your environment. The reset ritual. Consistency is often lost in the mess of daily life. At the end of every day, you should perform a physical reset. Spend 10 minutes cleaning your desk, putting away your equipment, and resetting your room to its disciplined state. This ensures that when you wake up tomorrow, your environment is ready to support you rather than cluttering your mind. A clean workspace is a clear mind. A prepped kitchen is a healthy body. A reset environment is a fresh start. Summary: stop fighting, start designing. As we close this chapter, I want you to look around the room you are currently in. Is this room helping you stay consistent, or is it tempting you to slack off? What is the lowest friction activity available to you right now? Is it scrolling? Or is it work? Stop blaming your lack of willpower. Stop calling yourself lazy. You are simply a victim of your own design. If you want to be relentless, you must become a choice architect. You must ruthlessly audit your physical and digital surroundings. You must add friction to every path that leads to your old self and remove every pebble from the path that leads to your new self. Discipline is easy when there is nothing else to do. Focus is easy when there are no distractions. Consistency is easy when the environment demands it. Make discipline easier than distraction. Control your environment, or it will control you. Design your success. Go now. Change one thing in your room. Put the phone away. Lay the clothes out. Clear the desk. The architect is now in charge. Chapter 7. Keep promises to yourself. The most important person in the room. Think about the person in your life you respect the most. Why do you respect them? It isn't just because they are talented or successful. It's because when they say they are going to show up, they show up. When they give you their word, you can take it to the bank. Their yes means yes, and their no means no. You trust them because they have a track record of integrity. Now, I want you to look at the relationship you have with yourself. How many times have you told yourself, "Tomorrow, I'm starting that diet"? How many times have you said, "Tonight, I'm going to bed early," or "This weekend, I'm finally going to work on that business plan"? And how many times have you looked at yourself in the mirror on Monday morning, knowing you lied to yourself again? Discipline is not just about productivity. Discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect. Every time you make a promise to yourself and break it, you are casting a vote against your own character. You are telling your subconscious mind that your word is worthless. You are teaching yourself that you cannot be trusted. If you don't trust yourself, you will never be consistent. Consistency is the outward expression of internal integrity. To be relentless, you must become a person who treats a promise made to themselves with the same gravity as a contract signed in blood. Repeat this to yourself: I do what I said I would do. The internal bank account. Imagine that inside your mind, there is a bank account. This isn't an account for money, it's an account for self-trust. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you make a deposit. When you wake up when the alarm goes off, that's a deposit. When you choose the salad over the fries like you said you would, that's a deposit. When you sit down to write for 20 minutes, that's a deposit. Conversely, every time you flake on yourself, you make a withdrawal. When you hit the snooze button 3 times, that's a withdrawal. When you skip the gym because you're not in the mood, that's a withdrawal. Most people are walking around with a self-trust account that is deeply overdrawn. They are in psychological bankruptcy. This is why they feel anxious, why they have low self-esteem, and why they can't stay consistent. Deep down, they know they are a liar. They know that as soon as things get difficult, they will fold. You cannot build a great life on a foundation of broken promises. You must start making deposits. You must rebuild your credit score with your own soul. And you do that by starting so small that it is impossible to fail. The danger of the grand gesture. When people realize they have zero discipline, their first instinct is to make a massive, impossible promise to fix everything. I'm going to go from zero exercise to working out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm going to stop eating all sugar, carbs, and processed food forever starting tomorrow. This is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because you are making a promise that your current self-trust account cannot afford. You are trying to buy a mansion with a credit score of 300. When you make a massive goal and fail on day 3, you don't just miss a workout. You deal a crushing blow to your self-image. You reinforce the story that I am a person who starts things but never finishes them. To be consistent, you must stop trying to be a hero and start trying to be a person of your word. It is better to promise yourself a 5-minute walk and actually do it, than to promise a 2-hour gym session and skip it. The 5-minute walk is a deposit. The skipped gym session is a withdrawal. Discipline is built on the small win. You must prove to yourself, through small, undeniable evidence, that you are a person who follows through. Your mantra, I do what I said I would do. The 10-minute commitment. If your self-trust is shattered, I want you to try the 10-minute rule. Commit to one single task for just 10 minutes a day. It could be 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of cleaning, or 10 minutes of exercise. But here is the catch. This 10 minutes is a sacred, non-negotiable contract. The world could be ending, you could be exhausted, you could be busy, but you must find those 10 minutes. Why? Not because 10 minutes of exercise will change your body. It won't. But 10 minutes of keeping a promise will change your brain. When you hit that 10-minute mark every day for a week, something shifts. Your subconscious starts to notice, wait a minute, we said we were going to do this, and we actually did it. Maybe we aren't losers after all. Maybe we are the type of people who show up. Once you have the deposit, you can increase the amount. But you never, ever make a promise you aren't 100% sure you can keep until your account is full again. Real-world example, the 10-minute walk versus the 2-hour fail. Consider 2 people trying to get healthy. Person A is the dreamer. They haven't exercised in years, but they sign up for a marathon and promise to train 2 hours every morning. On Monday, they do it. They are sore and exhausted. On Tuesday, they wake up, feel the pain in their legs, and decide to rest. On Wednesday, they feel guilty and skip again. By Friday, they have quit entirely. Their self-trust is lower than when they started. Person B is the integrity builder. They also haven't exercised in years. They promise themselves one thing, I will put on my shoes and walk for 10 minutes every single day at 5 p.m. On Monday, they walk for 10 minutes. On Tuesday, it's raining. They don't want to go, but they remember, I am a person of my word. They put on a jacket, walk for 10 minutes, and come home. On Wednesday, they are busy. They walk for 10 minutes at 9 p.m. before bed. Who is more consistent? Person B. After 30 days, Person B has 30 deposits in their self-trust account. They now have the capital to increase their walk to 20 minutes. Person A is back on the couch, hating themselves. The size of the task doesn't matter. The integrity of the follow-through is everything. Repeat, I do what I said I would do. The snooze button, the first lie of the day. If you want to master discipline, you must win the first battle of the day. For most people, that battle is the alarm clock. When you set an alarm for 6 a.m. the night before, you are making a promise to your future self. You are saying, at 6 a.m., we are going to begin our day. When 6 a.m. arrives and you hit the snooze button, you have committed your first act of self-betrayal before you have even opened your eyes. You have started your day by lying to yourself. You have made a withdrawal from your self-trust account while your feet haven't even touched the floor. How can you expect to stay consistent with your diet, your work, or your relationships when you couldn't even keep the very first promise you made to yourself? The snooze button is the procrastination trainer. It trains your brain to ignore your own instructions. If you want to be relentless, the alarm clock must be a no-negotiable system. Chapter 4. When it goes off, you get up. Not because you want to, but because you said you would. Integrity is an all-or-nothing game. You cannot be a person of integrity in big things if you are not a person of integrity in small things. If you tell a friend you'll call at 2 p.m., call at 2 p.m. If you tell yourself you'll wash the dishes before bed, wash the dishes. If you tell yourself you'll only check your phone for 5 minutes, put it down at the 5-minute mark. We often think these small slips don't matter. We think it's just a dish, or it's just 5 more minutes on Instagram. But your brain is recording every single one. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a small lie and a big lie. It only knows that you are someone who doesn't do what they say they will do. Consistency is a lifestyle of honesty. When you become ruthlessly honest with yourself about what you will and won't do, your discipline becomes a superpower. People start to notice. You start to move with a different kind of confidence. You aren't faking it anymore. You have the receipts. You have the evidence. The contract method. If you are struggling with a specific area of consistency, try writing it down as a physical contract. I, your name, commit to specific action at specific time for the next 7 days. I give my word that I will execute this regardless of my mood, the weather, or my level of motivation. Sign it. Post it on your wall. When you look at that paper, you aren't looking at a goal. You are looking at your reputation. To break that contract is to admit that you are a person whose signature is meaningless. Most of us treat other people's expectations of us with more respect than our own. If your boss told you to be at a meeting at 8 a.m., you'd be there. If your child needed you to pick them up, you'd be there. Why are you the only person you feel comfortable letting down? You must become your own high-performance boss. You must value your own word as much as you value the opinions of others. Your mantra, I do what I said I would do. How to handle a broken promise. You will eventually fail. You will miss a day. You will make a mistake. The question is, how do you respond? The amateur uses a broken promise as an excuse to break 10 more. Well, I already ate 1 cookie. I might as well eat the whole box and try again next month. This is the psychological bankruptcy mindset. The disciplined person views a broken promise like a flat tire. If you get a flat tire on the highway, do you get out of the car and slash the other 3 tires? No. You change the tire and get back on the road as quickly as possible. If you break a promise to yourself, acknowledge it immediately. Don't make excuses. Say, I failed to keep my word. I have made a withdrawal from my account. I will make a deposit right now to fix it. Then, perform a reinstatement task. Do something, anything, to prove you are back in control. If you skipped your workout, do 20 push-ups right now. If you ate something bad, make your next meal perfectly healthy. Don't let a withdrawal turn into a total collapse. 1 broken promise is a mistake. 2 broken promises is the start of a new, bad identity. The self-trust dividend. When your self-trust account is full, life becomes significantly easier. This is the dividend of discipline. When a person with high self-trust decides to do something, they don't feel the same resistance that others do. Their brain doesn't argue with them. Their brain says, okay, we said we're doing this. Let's go. Because they know they are going to follow through, they don't have to waste energy on building up the courage or finding the motivation. They just execute. This is how the most successful people in the world operate. They have built such a massive mountain of evidence of their own reliability that quitting isn't even a thought that enters their mind. They have reached the state of relentless integrity. Summary: Your word is your wealth. As we end this chapter, I want you to make one promise to yourself. Not a big one. Not a life-changing one. Just one small, simple promise for the next 24 hours. Maybe it's drinking a gallon of water. Maybe it's reading one page of a book. Maybe it's making your bed. Choose it now. And then, no matter what happens, do it. Protect that promise like it is the most valuable thing you own. Because it is. Your ability to keep promises to yourself is the engine of your consistency. It is the foundation of your confidence. It is the core of your discipline. Stop looking for hacks and secrets. Look in the mirror. Tell that person what you're going to do. And then go do it. I do what I said I would do. I do what I said I would do. I do what I said I would do. Every kept promise is a step toward the person you were born to be. Chapter 8. Detach from results, focus on process. The result trap. We are a culture obsessed with the finish line. We want the six-pack abs, the $1 million bank account, the published novel, and the massive social media following. We set our eyes on the destination and we run toward it with everything we have. In the beginning, this result-oriented thinking feels like fuel. It's what gets us off the couch and into the game. But very quickly, this obsession with the result becomes the primary reason we fail. When you focus only on the result, you are living in a state of constant lack. You are telling yourself, I'm not successful yet. I haven't reached the goal yet. This creates a background noise of anxiety. But more dangerously, it makes your consistency dependent on external validation. If you go to the gym for a week and the scale doesn't move, you feel defeated. If you post 5 videos and they don't go viral, you feel like a failure. If you work on your business for a month and don't make a sale, you quit. You quit because you are looking for a return on investment that hasn't arrived yet. The relentless person understands a fundamental law of the universe. Results are lagging indicators. They are the echoes of work you did weeks, months, or even years ago. If you judge today's effort by today's results, you are looking at the wrong data. To stay consistent, you must learn to detach your emotions from the outcome and attach your identity to the process. Repeat this to yourself, I control effort, not outcomes. The illusion of control. We like to think we have control over our success. We don't. You do not control whether a client signs a contract. You do not control whether the algorithm shows your work to 1 million people. You do not even control exactly how your body metabolizes fat on a Tuesday afternoon. What do you control? You control when you wake up. You control how many phone calls you make. You control how many minutes you spend on the treadmill. You control the words you put on the page. In other words, you control the input. The universe controls the output. When you obsess over the result, you are trying to control something that is fundamentally outside of your reach. This leads to emotional instability. On the days when the results are good, you're high on life. On the days when the results are bad, you're in the depths of despair. You cannot stay consistent on an emotional roller coaster. Consistency requires a flat-line emotion toward the outcome. You must reach a point where a win doesn't make you arrogant and a loss doesn't make you quit. You simply show up and execute the process because the process is the only thing you own. Real-world example, the scale obsession. Let's look at the most common example of the result trap, the bathroom scale. Consider 2 people starting a weight loss journey. Person A is result-obsessed. They wake up every morning and step on the scale. On Monday, they see they lost a pound. They feel amazing. They work out extra hard. On Tuesday, they see the weight stayed the same. They feel okay, but a little frustrated. On Wednesday, the scale goes up by half a pound, likely due to water retention or muscle inflammation. Because person A is focused on the result, they view that half-pound increase as a failure. They think, I worked so hard yesterday and I got heavier. This isn't working. My metabolism is broken. What's the point? By Friday, they have rewarded their frustration with a cheat meal, and by Monday, they've quit. Person B is process-focused. They have a goal to lose weight, but they have detached from the scale. Their scoreboard isn't the weight, it's their non-negotiable system, Chapter 4. Their system is, eat eat 2,000 calories and walk 10,000 steps. On Wednesday, when the scale goes up, person B doesn't care. They look at their tracker and see they hit their calories and their steps. To them, Wednesday was a perfect day. They won. Because they feel like they are winning every day through their effort, they stay consistent for 6 months. At the end of those 6 months, the results, the weight loss, have no choice but to show up. The mantra, I control effort, not outcomes. The farmer's wisdom. Imagine a farmer who plants a seed in the ground. Does the farmer go out the next morning and scream at the dirt? Does he dig up the seed every 2 hours to see if it's growing? Does he quit farming because there isn't a full-grown stalk of corn 24 hours after planting? Of course not. The farmer understands the process of growth. He knows that his job is to water the soil, remove the weeds, and ensure the plants have sun. He focuses entirely on the labor of farming. He knows that if he does the process correctly, the harvest will eventually arrive in its own time. You are a farmer of your own dreams. Your daily habits are the water and the sun. Your results are the harvest. If you are frustrated right now because you don't see the sprout above the dirt, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means the roots are growing. Most people quit right before the sprout breaks the surface because they are result blind. They can't see the progress, so they assume there is none. Discipline is the faith to keep watering the dirt even when you can't see the roots. The process as the reward mindset. To become relentless, you must shift your dopamine source. Most people get their hit of dopamine from the achievement. They feel good when they get the A, the promotion, or the like. But these hits are infrequent and outside of your control. The disciplined person gets their dopamine from the execution. They feel a sense of pride not when the book is finished, but the moment they hit their word count for the day. They feel a sense of victory not when they win the race, but when they finish the training session in the rain. They feel successful not when they have $1 million, but when they stick to their budget for the week. When you make the process the reward, you become unstoppable. Why? Because you can win every single day. You don't have to wait for the world to give you permission to feel successful. You give yourself permission by keeping the promises you made to yourself. Chapter 7. This is the secret to long-term consistency. You aren't gritting your teeth until you reach the goal. You are enjoying the feeling of being a person who does what they say they will do. Repeat it, I control effort, not outcomes. Lagging versus leading indicators. In business, there are 2 types of metrics, lagging and leading. A lagging indicator is a result. It tells you what happened in the past. Profit, weight, grades. A leading indicator is a behavior. It predicts what will happen in the future. Sales calls, calories eaten, hours studied. The mistake most people make is trying to manage their lives by looking at lagging indicators. It's like trying to drive a car while looking only at the rearview mirror. You can see where you've been, but you can't see where you're going, and you're probably going to crash. To stay consistent, you must ignore the lagging indicators and obsess over the leading indicators. If you are a salesperson, stop looking at your commission check. Look at your dials per day. If the dials are high, the check will follow. If you are a writer, stop looking at your Amazon reviews. Look at your time at desk. If the time is high, the book will follow. What are your leading indicators? What are the 2 to 3 actions that, if done consistently, make your success inevitable? Find them. Measure them. Forget everything else. The danger of the good day. Obsessing over results is dangerous when things are going badly, but it is equally dangerous when things are going well. When you have a big win, a viral post, a huge sale, a sudden drop in weight, your ego begins to swell. You start to think, I've made it. I'm a genius. I can take it easy now. This is the result trap in reverse. The high of the result causes you to neglect the process that got you there in the first place. This is why many people have one hit and then vanish. They stopped doing the boring repetition, chapter 5, because they got drunk on the result. The relentless person handles a win the same way they handle a loss. They acknowledge it, and then they ask, what is my process for today? Whether you are at the bottom of the mountain or the top, the requirements of discipline remain the same. You still have to put one foot in front of the other. You still have to execute. Performance versus practice. Think of a professional musician. They spend 99% of their time in a practice room, playing scales and difficult passages over and over again. They spend 1% of their time on stage performing for an audience. If that musician only cared about the performance, the result, they would be miserable 99% of the time. They would view the practice as a necessary evil to get to the good part. But the masters don't think like that. The masters find a deep, meditative joy in the practice. They love the feeling of the keys under their fingers. They love the slight improvement in their tone. They are process-philic. Your life is 99% practice and 1% performance. If you are only happy during the performance moments, the graduation, the wedding, the launch day, you are choosing to be miserable for the majority of your existence. Consistency is the art of turning the practice into the performance. Every day that you show up is your opening night. Every workout is your championship game. When the stakes are always high for the process, the results become a foregone conclusion. Detaching from the how and the when. Part of detaching from results is letting go of how and when the success arrives. We often have a very specific script in our heads. I will be successful by age 30, and it will happen through this specific business venture. When life doesn't follow your script, when the business fails at age 31, you think you are a failure. But if you were process-oriented, you would see that the discipline you built in that failed business is the exact tool you need for the successful one at age 32. The process is never wasted. The result is just the final wrapper on the package, but the process is the gift itself. The person you become through the consistency is more important than the trophy you get at the end. If you lose the trophy, you still have the character. If you get the trophy without the process, you have nothing but a piece of gold-plated plastic. Your mantra, I control effort, not outcomes. How to practice process thinking today. How do you start detaching from results right now? Stop checking the scoreboard. If you are trying to lose weight, weigh yourself once a week, not once a day. If you are building a business, check your bank account once a month, not every hour. Track the work, not the win. Create a process journal. Instead of writing down what you achieved, write down what you did. Today I wrote for 60 minutes. Today I made 20 calls. Today I avoided processed sugar. Celebrate the unseen victories. Give yourself a mental pat on the back for the days when you felt like quitting but didn't. That victory over your own weakness is more important than any external result. Adopt the one-day contract. Tell yourself, I am not worried about next year. I am not worried about the final goal. I have a one-day contract to execute my process today. If I do that, I have fulfilled my obligation. Summary: the freedom of the process. When you finally detach from the results, a strange thing happens. A massive weight is lifted off your shoulders. You no longer have to carry the burden of succeeding. You only have to carry the burden of showing up. And showing up is much easier than changing the world. Ironically, by focusing less on the results, you actually achieve better results. Why? Because you aren't paralyzed by the fear of failure. You aren't wasting energy on anxiety. You are putting 100% of your power into the execution. The world will try to pull your focus back to the scoreboard. It will ask, how much money did you make? How many followers do you have? Why aren't you there yet? You must ignore the world. Look at your hands. Look at your tools. Look at your schedule. That is where your power lies. The results are none of your business. Your business is the work. I control effort, not outcomes. The process is the prize. I execute. The rest takes care of itself. Go back to the work. The harvest is coming, but for now, we water the seeds. Chapter 9. Embrace discomfort daily. The comfort trap. We live in the most comfortable era in human history. We have climate-controlled rooms, food delivered to our doors with the tap of a thumb, and endless entertainment designed to keep our brains in a state of passive pleasure. Our modern world is engineered to remove friction, to eliminate struggle, and to keep us comfortable. But here is the danger. Comfort is the graveyard of consistency. Biologically, your body wants comfort because comfort equals safety. To your primitive brain, a warm bed and a full stomach mean you aren't being hunted by a predator. But to your modern ambitions, that same comfort is a cage. When you prioritize feeling good or cozy over the work you need to do, you are choosing stagnation. Discipline is the voluntary rejection of ease. It is the understanding that nothing of value has ever been built in a state of total comfort. Muscles only grow when they are torn by heavy weights. Diamonds only form under bone-crushing pressure. And your consistency only hardens when it is tested by discomfort. If you want to be relentless, you must stop viewing discomfort as a problem to be solved and start viewing it as a requirement to be met. You must normalize the struggle. You must reach a point where, when things get difficult, you don't look for the exit. You look for the gain. Repeat this to yourself: if it's hard, I stay. The resistance is the compass. Have you ever noticed that the most important tasks on your to-do list are usually the ones you feel the most resistance toward? You don't feel resistance toward checking your email or tidying your desk. You feel resistance toward making that high-stakes sales call. You feel resistance toward writing that difficult first chapter. You feel resistance toward the final 5 minutes of a brutal workout. Most people interpret this resistance as a sign to stop. They think, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety about this, so maybe I'm not ready. Or this is really painful, so I should probably take it easy. The disciplined person interprets resistance differently. They see it as a compass. Resistance is the internal GPS that points directly toward your growth. If a task feels heavy, boring, chapter 5, or mentally painful, it is usually because that task requires you to expand. It is pushing against the boundaries of your current identity. To be consistent, you must learn to move toward the heat, not away from it. When you feel that pit in your stomach or that mental fog that makes you want to quit, realize that you have just reached the training ground. Everything before that moment was just a warm-up. This is where the real discipline begins. The quit voice. Inside every human being, there is a quit voice. It is a voice that is incredibly logical, persuasive, and quiet. It doesn't scream, it whispers. You've done enough for today. It's too cold to go outside, you'll get sick. You can just do double the work tomorrow. Nobody will know if you take a shortcut. This voice is the personification of your desire for comfort. If you listen to it once, it gets louder. If you listen to it twice, it becomes a habit. If you listen to it consistently, it becomes your master. Consistency is the practice of hearing the quit voice and intentionally doing the opposite of what it says. It's not about not having the voice. Even the most elite athletes and CEOs have a quit voice. The difference is they have trained themselves to use the voice as a starting gun. The moment the voice says, I want to stop, the disciplined person says, if it's hard, I stay. They stay for 1 more rep, they stay for 10 more minutes. They stay until the work is done, not until the feeling is gone. Real-world example, the cold morning. Consider the simple act of waking up at 5 a.m. on a winter morning. You are in a warm bed. Outside the blankets, the room is freezing. Your quit voice is giving you a million reasons to stay under the covers. At that moment, you are at a crossroads of identity, chapter 2. The comfort seeker stays in bed. They choose the temporary pleasure of warmth over the long-term goal of their discipline. In doing so, they weaken their mind. They have taught their brain that feelings are more important than promises. The consistent person feels the same cold. They feel the same desire to stay in bed. But they recognize that the discomfort is the workout. Getting out of bed isn't just about starting the day. It's about defeating the quit voice. By throwing off the blankets and standing up in the cold, they have won the first battle of the day. They have calloused their mind. They have proven the mantra, if it's hard, I stay. Callousing the mind. The concept of callousing the mind, popularized by David Goggins, is essential for long-term consistency. When you first start lifting weights, your hands are soft. You get blisters. It hurts. But if you keep lifting, the skin on your palms hardens. It turns into callus. Eventually, the weights that used to hurt your hands don't bother you at all. You haven't changed the weights. You've changed the skin. Your mind works the same way. If you always avoid discomfort, if you always take the easy path, the warm shower, and the comfortable chair, your mind remains soft. The slightest bit of stress or inconvenience will cause you to break your consistency. But if you intentionally seek out small doses of discomfort every day, you build mental callus. Take a cold shower. Run in the rain. Work in a slightly uncomfortable chair. Finish the task when you are 90% tired. These are not punishments. They are training representatives for your willpower. By choosing discomfort on your own terms, you ensure that when life forces discomfort on you, you are ready. You won't break because you've been here before. You know how to operate in the red zone. Normalizing the struggle. We often think that successful people have a magical ability to not feel pain or boredom. We think it must be easy for them because they are so disciplined. The truth is the opposite. The disciplined person feels the struggle more because they are constantly pushing their limits. The difference is they have normalized it. They don't expect the work to be easy. They expect it to be a fight. When they sit down to work and find it difficult to focus, they don't say, "Something is wrong." They say, "This is the work. It's supposed to feel like this." When you expect struggle, you take its power away. You stop being a victim of your feelings. If you go into a workout knowing it will hurt, the pain doesn't surprise you. It doesn't make you want to quit. It just confirms that you are doing it right. Consistency is found in the acceptance of the grind. You stop looking for a smooth path and start getting used to the rocky one. Your mantra, "If it's hard, I stay." The one more principle. One of the best ways to embrace discomfort is the one more principle. When you reach the point where you truly want to quit, when the discomfort is at its peak, commit to doing one more. One more page. One more minute of cardio. One more sales call. One more minute of deep focus. This one more is where the actual growth happens. In weightlifting, the first 9 representatives are just to get you to the 10th rep. The 10th rep, the one where your muscles are shaking and your brain is screaming, is the only rep that actually triggers muscle growth. If you quit when it's easy, you are just maintaining. If you push through the wall of discomfort for just one more, you are expanding. You are teaching your brain that you are the master of your body. You are proving that your stop button is controlled by your mind, not your exhaustion. The physiology of growth. Tear to repair. In biology, hypertrophy, muscle growth, occurs through microtrauma. You literally have to create tiny tears in the muscle fibers through the discomfort of exercise. Then, during rest, the body repairs those tears and makes the muscle thicker and stronger than before. Consistency in any field follows this biological law. To become a better writer, you must endure the mental tear of writing through a creative block. To become a better leader, you must endure the emotional tear of having difficult, uncomfortable conversations. To become a better entrepreneur, you must endure the financial tear of investing when you are scared. If you avoid the tear, you avoid the repair. And if you avoid the repair, you never get stronger. Embrace the discomfort of the tear. It is the biological requirement for the level up. Without the struggle, there is no strength. Without the resistance, there is no change. Repeat, "If it's hard, I stay." Discomfort as a filter. Just as boredom is a filter, Chapter 5, discomfort is the ultimate separator. The world is full of people who are consistent when things are easy. They are disciplined when the sun is out and they have money in the bank and their coffee is perfect. But the moment the discomfort filter kicks in, the moment the market crashes, the relationship gets hard, or the health scare happens, 99% of people vanish. They vanish because they never trained for discomfort. They were fair-weather disciplinarians. The relentless person uses the discomfort filter to their advantage. They know that every time things get harder, the crowd gets smaller. If it's hard for you, it's hard for everyone else. But if you are the one who stays while everyone else flees for the warmth of safety, you are the one who wins the territory. Discomfort is the price of entry for the inner circle of high achievers. If you want what others don't have, you must be willing to feel what others are afraid to feel. The comfort zone is a shrinking circle. If you only do what is comfortable, your comfort zone actually begins to shrink over time. If you avoid hard conversations, eventually any conversation feels stressful. If you avoid physical exertion, eventually walking up a flight of stairs feels like a chore. By trying to protect your comfort, you actually make yourself more fragile and your world more limited. Consistency is the act of constantly pushing the walls of your comfort zone outward. By doing something uncomfortable every day, you make the hard things feel normal. Eventually, the things that used to terrify you, public speaking, cold calling, intense training, become your new baseline. You have expanded your territory. You have become a bigger, more capable version of yourself. How to embrace discomfort today? How do you start training this muscle right now? Seek the slightly harder path. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Park at the back of the parking lot. Drink your coffee black. Choose the small discomforts to build the habit. The 60-second rule. When you feel the urge to quit a task, force yourself to stay for exactly 60 more seconds of focused work. Prove that you own the clock. Physical hardening. Inject one physical discomfort into your day. A 2-minute cold rinse at the end of your shower is the perfect mental callus trainer. Do the hardest thing first. Use your Eat the Frog system, Chapter 4, to tackle the most uncomfortable task of the day while your willpower is highest. Summary: the beauty of the struggle. As we close this chapter, I want you to reframe your relationship with struggle. The pain you feel when you are staying consistent is not your enemy. It is the entrance fee for the life you want. It is the proof that you are no longer a slave to your biological impulses. When you feel the resistance, when you feel the cold, and when you feel the deep mental fatigue of the grind, don't complain. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Look at the discomfort and say, I see you, and I'm not leaving. You are the master of your environment. You are the keeper of your promises. And you are the warrior who thrives in the discomfort. If it's hard, I stay. If it's hard, I stay. If it's hard, I stay. The world belongs to those who can endure. Stay in the fire. That's where the gold is refined. Chapter 10. Become relentless. The final transformation. We have traveled through the architecture of discipline. We have learned to stop waiting for the fleeting spark of motivation. We have shifted our identity from someone who tries to someone who is. We have killed the parasite of perfectionism, built non-negotiable systems, mastered the boring fundamentals, and engineered our environment for success. We have learned the sacred weight of a promise made to oneself, the freedom of focusing on the process, and the necessity of embracing discomfort. But now, we reach the final and most critical stage of the journey. This is where consistent turns into relentless. Most people think consistency is a streak on a calendar, a long line of perfect days. They think that as long as the chain is unbroken, they are disciplined. But the moment the chain snaps, and it will snap, they crumble. They think the game is over. Being relentless is different. To be relentless is to realize that there is no off switch for who you are. It is the understanding that consistency is not an occasional performance. It is a permanent state of being. You don't do discipline anymore. You are discipline. And because it is who you are, it doesn't matter what life throws at you. Repeat this to yourself. I don't stop. I adjust. The end of trying. From this moment forward, I want you to remove the word try from your vocabulary. When you say, I'm trying to be consistent, you are giving yourself a psychological backdoor. You are telling your brain that failure is an acceptable outcome. Trying is a tentative, weak-willed approach to life. It implies that you are testing the waters to see if the world will let you succeed. The relentless person does not try. They commit. Think of the difference between a pilot trying to land a plane and a pilot landing a plane. One is an experiment. The other is a requirement. When you are relentless, your non-negotiables are requirement. You don't wake up and try to work out. You work out. You don't try to eat healthy. You eat healthy. This isn't about being perfect, as we learned in Chapter 3. It's about the intensity of your intent. When you stop trying, you eliminate the internal debate. You close the door on the quit voice. Chapter 9. You have decided that the path you are on is the only path available. Relentlessness is the absence of alternatives. It is the bridge burned behind you. Your mantra, I don't stop. I adjust. The 1-miss rule, the separation point. The greatest test of your consistency will not happen on your best day. It will happen on your worst day. It will happen on the day you fail. Every person listening to this will eventually miss a day. You will get sick. You will have an emergency. You will simply have a moment of weakness where the comfort trap wins. In that moment, the average person and the relentless person go in two completely different directions. The average person sees a single miss as a total failure. They say, well, I broke my streak. I already messed up my diet by eating that cake, so I might as well eat pizza for dinner and start again next Monday. This is the all or nothing fallacy. They let one mistake turn into a week of indulgence. They allow a single hole in the tire to make them blow out the other 3. The relentless person sees a miss as a tactical error that must be corrected immediately. They follow the never miss twice rule. If they miss their morning workout, they don't wait for tomorrow. They do 20 air squats in the bathroom at lunch. If they miss a day of writing, they are back at the keyboard the very next morning with twice the focus. They don't sulk. They don't shame themselves. They don't look back. They return to the process with a ferocity that makes the mistake irrelevant. Success isn't about never falling. It's about being the person who gets up before the dust has even settled. Repeat it. I don't stop. I adjust. Adaptive consistency, the art of the pivot. Most people fail at consistency because they are too rigid. They have a perfect day plan, and if they can't execute that plan exactly as written, they do nothing. The relentless person practices adaptive consistency. Life is chaotic. Your schedule will be hijacked. You will travel. You will have sleepless nights. If your discipline requires a perfect environment, you will never be relentless. You must learn to be consistent in the mud, in the rain, and in the chaos. If you can't get to the gym for 60 minutes, you do 10 minutes in your hotel room. If you can't eat a perfect meal, you eat the least bad thing available and practice portion control. If you can't do 4 hours of deep work, you do 20 minutes of high-intensity focus. The goal is to keep the pilot light on. Even if the fire isn't a roaring blaze today, you must not let the flame go out. As long as the light is on, the system is alive. When life blocks your path, you don't turn around and go home. You find a different way to move forward. I don't stop. I adjust. Real-world example, the corporate traveler. Consider 2 executives, Mark and Elena, both trying to stay fit while traveling for business. Mark has a rigid mindset. He has a specific gym routine he likes. When he arrives at his hotel and finds the gym is closed for renovation, he throws up his hands. I can't do my routine, he says. He orders room service, watches a movie, and tells himself he'll get back to it when he returns home in 4 days. By the time he gets home, he's lost his momentum and doesn't go back to the gym for 2 weeks. Elena has a relentless mindset. She sees the closed gym sign. Does she quit? No. She goes back to her room, clears a space on the floor, and does a 20-minute bodyweight circuit. It wasn't her perfect workout. It didn't have the weight she wanted. But she kept the promise, Chapter 7. She maintained the identity, Chapter 2. She adjusted. Because Elena stayed consistent in the hotel room, she doesn't need to restart when she gets home. She never stopped. Mark has to drag himself back to the starting line. Elena is already miles ahead. I don't stop. I adjust. No breaks in identity. The 24/7 professional. Relentlessness means there are no holidays from your character. We often think, it's my birthday, I should be able to slack off, or I'm on vacation, I'll leave my discipline at home. But remember Chapter 2. Consistency is your identity. You are not an athlete only when it's convenient. You are an athlete. You are not a focused professional only when you're in the office. You are a focused professional. If you take a break from your identity, you are telling yourself that your discipline is a burden, a heavy weight you are tired of carrying. But for the relentless person, discipline is not a weight. It is the skeleton that holds them up. It is what gives them shape and strength. You don't take a break from your skeleton. This doesn't mean you don't rest. Relentless people rest harder than anyone else. But they rest with discipline. They schedule their recovery. They protect their sleep. They nourish their bodies. They don't crash into laziness. They invest in restoration. Whether you are in a boardroom or on a beach, you are the same person. You keep your word. You protect your time. You execute your process. The compound effect of the relentless. Consistency is a game of mathematics. If you get 1% better every day, you are 37 times better by the end of the year. But if you get 1% worse or take a break every few days, you don't just stay the same, you drift toward zero. The relentless person understands that the big wins in life come from the compound effect. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, but it only works if you don't interrupt it unnecessarily. Every day you show up, you are adding to your capital. You are building a mountain of evidence that makes your eventual success inevitable. People will look at you 5 years from now and call you lucky or gifted. They won't see the 1,825 days of boring repetition. They won't see the mornings you adjusted instead of stopping. They will see the result, but you will know it was the process. You will know that while everyone else was looking for a breakthrough, you were simply refusing to be broken. The infinity game. Most people treat consistency like a 30-day challenge or a 90-day transformation. They are playing a finite game. They are looking for a finish line where they can finally stop being disciplined. The relentless person plays the infinity game. There is no finish line. There is no point where you arrive and can finally afford to be lazy. The reward for the work is the ability to do more work. The reward for the discipline is the stronger version of yourself that can handle even bigger challenges. When you realize that this is a lifelong journey, the pressure of perfection disappears. You aren't in a rush to reach a destination. You are focused on the quality of your movement today. You are building a life, not just a streak. If you are 20 years old, you have 60 years of consistency ahead of you. If you are 50, you have 30. Think about the power of 30 years of non-negotiable systems. Think about the person you will become if you never miss twice for the next decade. That person is a god among men. That person is unstoppable. The call to arms. As we reach the end of this book, I want you to look back at the person you were when you started chapter 1. That person was waiting for motivation. That person was afraid of discomfort. That person was trying to be perfect. That person is dead. You are now equipped with the tools of the relentless. You know that action creates the feeling. You know that systems beat willpower. You know that the environment is your architect. The only thing left is the execution. The world is full of talkers. It is full of planners and dreamers and people who wish things were different. But the world is moved by the executors. The world is shaped by the people who show up when they are tired, when they are bored, and when they are broken. From this moment on, your life is a no-debate zone. You have your rules. You have your identity. You have your process. When the alarm goes off tomorrow, the debate is over. When the resistance hits, the debate is over. When you fail, the debate is over. You stand up. You adjust. You move. Final mantra. I don't wait. I execute. I am the type of person who shows up. Done is discipline. Perfect is delay. No debate. Just execute. Boring is where winners are built. Make discipline easier than distraction. I do what I said I would do. I control effort, not outcomes. If it's hard, I stay. I don't stop. I adjust. The journey doesn't end here. The journey begins tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. It begins the next time you feel like quitting. It begins the next time you face a boring rep. Be relentless. Be consistent. Be the architect of your own greatness. The work is waiting. Go execute.